Assalamu alaikum, assalamu Allah, Hotep, peace family. Once again, I am deeply honored and humbled to be before you to share some more of the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This week, we're going to cover part 3 of how to eat to live as it relates to the vegan or vegetarian way of living. As always, we would like to begin all things in the name of Allah. Please permit me to open up in a brief prayer. In the name of Allah, God, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever, the Supreme Allah, the true and living God who is not a spook nor a mystery, but an original man. We thank Almighty God, Allah, for his coming, for his blessings, and his teachings and instruction and guidance through his first, last, and only messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the messenger of Allah to us all. O Allah, forgive me for my weaknesses and my faults, and let me die not unless it's in accordance with the instruction and divine teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I live my life as an FOI, and I will willingly give my life as an FOI. Amen. My brothers and sisters, today we would like to cover some more of How to Eat to Live, volumes 1 and 2, written by the messenger of Allah himself, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This morning, we posted on the website www.elijahmuhammadonly.com 3 of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's 1956 articles on the 144,000. If any of you was not able to go read those profound articles written by the messenger of Allah, please go to the homepage and read the messenger's teachings. They're on there, they're free, and they're very, very, very informative. Today, we would like to cover our diet, and not just our diet, but the different foods that people likes to eat, and compare it to what is written and prepared for us in the messenger's message. Because as I always say, it is the messenger's message that guides us through this age of mess. Whenever a messenger of God appears to a fallen part of humanity, that messenger struggles to elevate the mental and moral and spiritual consciousness of his people. Usually, after the departure of the messenger of Allah, the people deviate from his original instructions, his original guidance, and they begin to worship that which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or the messengers and prophets of God oppose. We've seen this in the scriptures of the Bible. When Moses came, they, of course, rejected him. Eventually, they accepted him. And in his departure, they rejected him again and returned right back to that mystery God. They began to worship that golden calf. We've seen that King David instructed his people. We've seen that Jesus, the prophet, instructed his people. We see that Muhammad of the Holy Quran instructed his people. And whenever a major Nabi or major prophet of Allah God comes and gives divine guidance, unfortunately, in the house, the believers begin to go into sects. They begin to go into denominations. They form divisions in the house of God and become divided against themselves. And of course, the result is chaos. In the year 2015, we can go on YouTube and look at the myriad of different divisions in the nation of Islam. Unfortunately, we have countless people that are opposing what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about how to eat to live. there are black and white books and DVDs and CDs and YouTube videos telling you should eat like this, you shouldn't eat like that. This way is better than that way. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was wrong in his instructions. That's some old stuff. That was some baby stuff. I have a more higher, superior form of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. However, the reality is this. From 1930 to 1975, the condition and position of black men and women in the Nation of Islam improved dramatically. They who suffered backaches and ailments and overweight back in the 1930s, their health was restored under the guidance and instructions of Master Fard Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. When we went away from How to Eat to Live, volumes 1 and 2, we seen that our people's health began to fall. We seen the incidence of weight, diabetes, high blood pressure, bad cholesterol, cancers, heart attacks, strokes increase. Not amongst the Christians and the Caucasians only, but even inside the Nation of Islam. You can take any of the general mass meetings, any of the major rallies where there's a group of FOIs and MGTs, and you will notice that FOIs and MGTs are suffering the same ailments as the 85% and the 10%, or the mentally deads and the rich slave makers of the poor. Why? Because we have gone astray from God in person, Master Fard Muhammad, by Elijah Muhammad, Messenger of Allah, How to Eat to Live, books 1 and 2. We have to get back into that one meal a day. We have to understand that in 2015, 70% of black people are overweight. You can't hide being overweight. You can put on a big suit. You can put on a loose garb. But being overweight is a sign that you're taking in more than is required by the true temple or the true body of God or goddess. However, when we get back to How to Eat to Live, we'll see that the process of death is reversed and we go back to the process of life. So let us remind ourselves with these so-called basics, because when you read How to Eat to Live 1 and 2, depending on where you at, if you are elevated in your consciousness, when you read this wisdom, you're going to see more. And you read it again, you'll see even more. And you'll see that there is no limit to the messenger's message. So let us turn to page number 6 of How to Eat to Live, book number 1, written in 1967, about cornbread. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, quote, he flatly forbids us to eat cornbread. Okay. Now we know that during slavery, we had to make do with whatever the devils gave to us. And our mothers and fathers were wise enough to prepare the food and make it tasty and delicious. And our tongue that's able to taste things that are sweet and sour and bitter were able to come into the flavor of what we call soul food. However, soul food consisted primarily of pork, cornbread, black-eyed peas, collard greens, scavengers such as shrimps and crabs and liquor and beer, and things that made us other than our own selves. We began to eat a whole bunch of so-called wonder bread or white bread. And we noticed that our grandmother's feet began to swell. We seen that our people started suffering pain in all that joints like they did back in the 30s and 40s. We seen our family members suffering ailments because they deviated from how to eat to live. Now, as a child, I loved cornbread. My grandmother used to bake delicious cornbread. My mother baked delicious cornbread. However, when you get knowledge of self and you understand how rough that cornbread is on the digestive tract, you don't let your tongue guide your mind or your brain. You let your brain do the thinking and you let your tongue do the tasting. And this is the proper function of the human body. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on page number 6 teaches us, he flatly forbids us to eat this so-called cornbread. He goes on to say it is not good for human consumption because of its potency, which only animal stomachs are able to digest. Positively, do not eat cornbread. Corn is a fruit. You could literally eat corn raw. However, corn, which is a staple, especially of many people around the planet Earth, is not designed for the human being to digest. You could take an ear corn, so-called soul food, and you can eat that ear corn. And when you go to the bathroom, you'll see pieces of the corn in your toilet. Why? Because your body can't properly process that. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, if you're going to eat some corn, if being a qualifier, he said, let it be cream corn or milk corn, meaning you want to take that corn and you want to put it in a blender and you want to get that hull in such a state that your body can at least assimilate it. Because that skin on that corn is so potent that if I put an apple on this rostrum and I put a carrot and I put an orange and a grape and I put an ear corn up here and you came back 300 years from now, it'll all be gone. The rostrum will be gone, but the corn will still be here. That corn will literally dry up and turn into pure plastic. So when you eat it, your body cannot process it in that potent form. So if you're going to eat some corn, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us in Hadith to Live, let it be in this milk state. So what he does is he tells you on one hand, don't eat this. And then he understands some of our people follow their taste buds. Some of our people don't have enough money to get the diet that they want to get. So he said, okay, if you're going to eat it, at least crush it up. Put it in a form that is more easily to digest inside the human body. Because yes, it's rich with vitamin C and all that. But you got to be mindful in this day and time, they need corn to mix with the gasoline. So what they do is, when you go to your traditional gas station, they be like, oh, gas prices drop. No, they putting the cut on the package like a drug dealer. So when you look at the pump says that it's 10% ethanol. They cutting the gasoline with corn. So you have to understand the devil's tricks. He's trying to make money. He don't care about our health. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1967, he told us, he said, if you're going to eat some cornbread, he said it is not good for human consumption because of its potency, which only animal stomachs are able to digest. Positively, do not eat cornbread. If you must or are forced, because some brothers and sisters are incarcerated and they don't make that food. They may be locked down in a hole during a life sentence. They may be sitting on death row and the food comes to them. And they on the tip like, well, I'm trying to eat a vegetarian diet. And in doing that, they got to eat pancakes and waffles and cornbread and white bread and canned fruits and canned vegetables. They would prefer to get fresh food. They would prefer to eat to live. But unfortunately, under those circumstances, they can't. They force to do the best they can. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad explains to us that when he was in prison, he suffered. He was forced to eat potato peelings to try to avoid eating the flesh of the swine. He explained to us one day, he went to the warden and said, we don't hardly have nothing to eat. He said, all we get to eat is bread. Everything got pork or the essence of pork in it. He said the warden laughed at him and told him the bread got pork in it too. He said we often had to make a meal out of nothing but potato peelings. Our people incarcerated, as well as out here on these streets in the wilderness of North America, are struggling to eat to live. So he tells us and gives us a remedy on how to get around the devil's tricknology and at least make the best out of a bad situation. So this is what he wants us to do if you're going to eat some cornbread. He said if you must or are forced to eat it, he said to cook it 2 or 3 times. Put it up, sour it with a good yeast, dice onions into it, and let it ferment like wheat bread. After this, cook it 2 or 3 times. Never eat fresh hot corn muffins or hot cakes and syrup. When you eat half-cooked bread, it shortens your life, as all bread will rise again in our stomachs, buckling our stomach and intestinal walls. The more it is cooked, the less this will happen. Those carbs are vicious. In America, we eat a lot of processed food. And you could take a slice of that white bread and you take it out the plastic loaf, and you could take that bread and ball it up. And it'll turn into a little ball of dough. And you drop it, you'll notice it'll bounce. You take a slice of that white bread and you put it inside the toilet, and you don't flush the toilet, you just leave it in there for a couple of hours. You'll see that bread swell and swell again. When you eat it, it does the same thing. It swells up, it buckles your stomach. So you eating this Italian roll, you eating this corn muffin, these cakes and pies, all this processed bread, this dough, and your stomach can't handle it. It's building gas up in your system. The body is coming to it trying to process it, and it's like, this is like rubber, this is like glue. We can't do nothing with this. It takes too long. He's going to eat again. What you want us to do with this? I just store this fat. So now it's affecting your hormones and your system. So you have to be mindful that, one, if you want to see how powerful eating to live is, you can see it in 72 hours. For just 72 hours, 3 short days, tell yourself, you know what? For the next 3 days, I'm going to eat nothing but fruits and vegetables. Fresh fruits and vegetables, salads, steamed vegetables. That's all I'm going to eat. I'm not going to eat no carbs in the form of bread or processed pastas or brown rice or white rice or any of that. I'm going to just eat living food, raw food, some real food. And what you'll notice in 3 days, you will notice your stomach going down. You'll see your complexion come back in. You'll see your energy level go up. You'll see your blood pressure go down. You'll see your bad cholesterol go down. You weigh yourself beforehand and weigh yourself 3 days later. You'll be like, oh, I actually lost weight in 3 days. What does that mean? That means that what you're presently doing, eating and drinking, is physically killing you. And when you go back to the food that Master Fard Muhammad, the Supreme Allah himself, prescribed for us, and eat it the way he taught us to eat it, and prepare it the way he taught us to prepare it, and eat it at the times he told us to eat it, your body benefits. You can see it like that, instantaneously. It won't take long. You'll see it in 8 hours. Get back to how to eat to live and not how to eat to die. He told us raw bread, if it is cooked enough, is fine to eat. It is not good for office people. They are not active enough to digest such a bread. It is good for a working man doing manual labor. Office workers should not even eat baked beans, nor beans with rice and meat in them, because their jobs do not permit them enough activity to digest such heavy foods. He said, prepare your own food. This is page number 7. Take time and prepare your own foods. Do not kill yourselves by running to the store, buying processed foods to eat, and never buy those ready-made biscuits. I used to love them ready-made biscuits until I learned how to eat to live. You know, I used to put butter on them things, syrup on them things, but it was pure white dough, processed junk, you see? And whenever I eat a lot of bread, it makes you feel bloated. You can feel your body get sluggish. You can feel the paste actually sticking inside your digestive system. You'll see your face actually taking on weight. Now, I mean, you can weigh yourself and see like, yo, this stuff is literally killing me. Now, I mean, growing up in Philadelphia, I used to eat Philly cheesesteaks, turkey hoagies. A Muslim brother told us, he said, brother, don't eat the Italian hoagie. They got pork in it. Eat the turkey hoagie. And I used to work in 2 stores, so I could get them for free. So I'm eating turkey hoagies and cheeseburgers and French fries and fish and shrimp and crabs, eating that stuff just about every day. I was a young man, so I was real active, but just because you got strong and lean muscles and you may feel as though you're healthy, that don't mean that you're really healthy because you're still eating junk. And I ate a lot of junk. I was eating candy and chocolate and now laters and Boston baked beans and lemonades and bubble gum, sodas, you name it. As a teenager, before I learned how to eat to live, I noticed that if I use raw white sugar or drank most sodas, it would cause my face to break out. I would drink a Pepsi or certain sodas and I would notice I would get acne. And everybody, oh, that's normal. You're a teenager, your hormones, testosterone, all teenagers get acne, this, that, and the other. So I believe that nonsense. But then one day I was talking to a FOI, twin FOI, named Dino Mario, who was a friend of my sister Donna. And he told me, he said, little brother, stop drinking them sodas. And I'm like, huh? He's like, you drink soda? Yeah, I drink soda. He said, don't drink soda, brother. You know what I mean? It's breaking your face out. You use sugar? Yeah, I use sugar. I put sugar all in my cereal. Processed cereal, grafted milk, white sugar. It's delicious to me. He said, don't eat that. And I was wondering like, oh, let me try to clear my face up. I don't want acne on my face if I could, Clearasil wasn't working. So I said, let me try this here out, It was in my best interest. And when I stopped drinking the sodas and I was addicted to the sugar, so I cut back on the sugar at first, I noticed within 1 week, my complexion started clearing up. And I was like, go figure. The brother knew what he was talking about, that how to eat to live stuff, So this stuff, it fits our people individually as well as collectively. You may not be worrying about your complexion. You may be worrying about your heart. You may be worrying about cancer. You may be worrying about growing older. You may be worrying about cavities or your weight, whatever it is. How to eat to live fits you psychologically and biologically. So I highly recommend that you give How to Eat to Live the opportunity to work in your individual life. Let us look on to more of the messenger's wisdom. He said, do not eat the highly rich soybean, which is a new flour on the market. These beans are for cattle, not human beings. The oil from soybeans is not good for our stomachs. Soybean flour is being mixed with wheat flour by the flour mills. In fact, the Christians are experimenting with all foods. They do not care what they eat as long as it does not kill them instantly. Beware. For good health, we should raise and prepare our own food. As I said in this book, the white race is a commercializing race by nature. It is the almighty dollar they are after, not long life. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us don't mess with that soy. A lot of our conscious people, if you will, is messing with that soy, that tofu, that soybean. When I was deep into my weight training, I noticed that in Men's Health some years ago, the Caucasian scientists did an experiment, and what they noticed was that those that ate the soy suffered a higher incidence of cancer. they seen that their estrogen levels was becoming unbalanced because a lot of weightlifters was deep into the soy and all that. So now they're starting to change that in the health fields. They're starting to tally their science with the wisdom and the science that was revealed to us by Messenger Elijah Muhammad and given to him by our Lord God, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom all praises are due forever. So the messenger said we shouldn't eat the soybean or use soy oil or soy flour. And I want you to be careful with this soy, because I got food one day. I went to the supermarket and I wanted some vegetable oil. So I got some, I believe it was Wesson oil or Crisco or something oil. And out of curiosity, I'm getting into the habit of reading that stuff. You got to read them labels. So let me see what's in this. Because a lot of that stuff be like, oh, I'm healthy, buy me, buy me. And you get it, it's worse than pork. So when I read it, I'm like, this ain't nothing but soy. So they're liquefying soy, labeling it as vegetable oil, and on the cover, instead of showing the soybean, they showing carrots and broccoli and all this fresh, healthy looking stuff in there. It's not vegetable oil. It's soybean oil being sold under the guise of vegetable oil. And technically it is vegetable oil. And that thing is, the ingredients was on there. You should have read it. You shouldn't have looked at the picture. You shouldn't have judged the book by the cover. You should have read it. You had to do the science. So it takes a little longer, but it's worth it for our health. It's worth it for our family's health. We need to read these labels. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad goes on to explain to us about this soy on page number 10. He said, they graft a lot of food, and some of this food is not good for our stomachs. Remember, they graft a lot of food, and some of this food is not good for our stomachs. Soybean flour is very rich and not good for our stomachs. Our stomachs are too delicate for soybean flour. Therefore, leave those beans alone. The animals, especially cattle and hogs, love them. Grind them up and they will eat them. They are very high in protein. The lima bean is another large bean advertised by the devil for you to eat, which will almost burst the lining of the stomach and intestines of a Texas bull. They said that one is good for the nigger. Do not eat the smaller ones either. The ones they call baby lima beans, baby belly busters. Pastries and cakes, the kind made with crust of white flour and sweetened with white sugar, so sweet you can still taste them the next day, are not good for our stomachs. All this hastens you to the graveyard sooner than you would like to go. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that these soybeans are so strong. He admits, oh, they're very high in protein. And that's what a lot of our sellers of books and DVDs are looking at. They're looking at a food or looking at what is it rich in. They be like, oh, you should eat kale. Kale is rich in vitamin K. No, it's extremely rich in vitamin K. It's so rich in vitamin K, certain people, if they eat it and they have a blood deficiency, they could die eating kale. It's so rich that in the United States of America, every year people physically die from eating kale. So you have to understand that everything on the earth is a medicine, and everything on earth that we use for food is not a medicine. So we can eat a food, and we have to be mindful that some things we don't need right now. There may come a time in our diet or in our way of eating where we need to eat some raw kale because we're trying to do something in our blood. But you shouldn't just sit down and say, oh, I'm going to eat, this grew out the earth. What's this, a mushroom? Let me eat that. Oh, these berries, let me eat some of them. Oh, these roots, these nuts, nah. Don't put anything in your mouth and just eat the dye. You have to look at what did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teach us. And you can't think that you're wiser than Master Fard Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is where the division and confusion comes into play. We think because we didn't read some other books, or we didn't Google some information, or we didn't went on Wikipedia, that we're now brighter than God himself in the person of Master Fard Muhammad and his messenger, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They didn't come just teach us how to eat to live. They taught us about us. They taught us how to be ourselves, not just with food, but politically, socially, morally. They taught us about family. They taught us how to dress, how to survive in the midst of the devil. They pointed out our open enemies. They said the white man is the devil and the black man is God. They taught us that heaven and hell is here on earth. So someone that comes after them and tell you the black man is not God, he just has God in him. Oh, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that because at that time our people had low self-esteem, so he was using reverse trick. Now, they are liars. They come after the messenger of God and be like, oh, the devil's not really the devil. The devil is my friend. He's my bro. He's like, this one is cool. The devil is the devil regardless of place or time. Plain and simple. They are all devils, according to the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If you think the devil is not the devil, it's only a matter of time where you believe that God is not God. It's only a matter of time when you believe that heaven is not heaven and hell is not hell. And next thing you know, you'll see in the Nation of Islam what you see in the Nation of Islam. Chaos, spookism, superstition, astrology, mysticism, loving the devil more than they love themselves. Blind, deaf, and dumb. After the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We got all this high wisdom. We got all this advanced technology. You can go into how much carotene is in a carrot, how much vitamin C is in a stalk of broccoli. But our people are dying more than ever. Cancer on the rise, overweight, obesity, cavities all through our teeth. Migraine headaches, complexion look darker than dark. We are other than our own selves because we are setting up partners with Allah, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad and his messenger, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. These teachings are mandatory. These teachings are a must. These teachings are obligatory on each FOI and MGT and anyone who wants to adhere and believe in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Let me quote the messenger. He said, the eating regulations in this book are a must with my followers. Now, this is on page number 8 of How to Eat to Live, volume number 1, 1967. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, the eating regulations in this book are a must. He put the word must in quotation. He put emphasis on that, not me. He said the eating regulations in this book are a must with my followers. So if you say that you are a follower of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you can't follow his teachings if you don't know his teachings. You can't follow his teachings if you're not studying his teachings. You can't have faith in Allah if you're not putting in the work for Allah. You cannot say that you believe unless you believe as the messenger of Allah believed. Then you can say you are a believer and practitioner of the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, do not put lard in your bread. Use vegetable oil, corn oil, pure butter, olive oil, or whatever good vegetable oil you choose. Now, when it comes to these oils, we want to be mindful that the devil being the devil, they need the corn because they're trying to link the corn to the oil. And they're trying to save money and not be so dependent on the oil revenues of Africa and Arabia and other places. Barack Obama is opposing the shale oil that's in the rocks up in Canada. So in Texas, they had these giant silos where America is storing that oil, because they see something you don't see. They know in the future is going to be absolutely chaotic. Not in America, around the whole world. They know it's going to be no food in no supermarkets. They know that there's going to be no Facebook, no YouTube, no Twitter accounts. There'll be no gasoline for your cars. There'll be no interstate bypasses. You will not be able to travel from one state to another state. There'll be military soldiers on the street. There'll be curfews. You will not be able to turn the lights on in your house, but the lights will come on at a certain time of the day and go off at a certain time of the day. You will not have running water in your house. There will be a famine that the prophets say in the Old Testament that a mother will eat the head of her own newborn baby. That people will sell bird poop because they will be so hungry. So we want to be mindful. We want to be prepared. We want to know how to survive. We want to understand the importance of fasting, of eating one meal a day, of eating a vegan diet, understanding what foods we can eat, what foods we can't eat, how to avoid the toxins and poisons that's out there. So since the devil in this day and time, not back in the 70s and 60s as much, but in this day and time, they are putting so many pesticides on corn. They're making all these grafted or hybrid forms of corn, ears of corn this big. I went to the market and picked up a head of cabbage. It physically had to be about this big. Potatoes this big. You should be terrified to eat a tomato like that, an apple this big, carrots like this. They grafted. They are tampering with. So if we're eating that, they don't know the side effect. We don't know the side effect. It may not show up for 10 years, 50 years, a generation or two. But these devils are grafting everything, doing whatever they can just to make some money. And we want to be mindful that we're literally at war for the survival of our species. So we can't just be eating the devil's grafted stuff. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as we said about that grafted food, he said, we must prepare and grow our own food because this is a highly commercialized world. They graft a lot of food, and some of this food is not good for our stomachs. How to Eat to Live, page number 10. Let us go on. Let's look at page number 12 for a moment. He said, do not eat ground meat unless you see it ground. The message teaches us by nature we're vegetarians. We shouldn't eat pork. We shouldn't eat turkey. We shouldn't eat fish. We shouldn't eat chicken. We shouldn't eat eggs. We shouldn't eat cheese. We shouldn't eat butter. We shouldn't drink milk. Those things are survival foods. Those things people ate out of necessity. But by nature, we didn't eat those things. By nature, we ate fruit. We added to our diet as we had to survive and adapt to our environments and climatic conditions. And wars and rumors of wars forced us to go into survival mode. When our populations began to grow, we had to learn how to store foods and try to make the food last longer. So when we would take and store the food and a fungus or mold get in there, it'd poison the whole thing. So now today they perfected ways to preserve food. But the problem with artificial colors and artificial flavors and all these preservatives that they're putting inside the food and on the foods, it has an effect on our being. It's affecting our hearts, our liver, our kidneys, our brains, our blood, our bones, our muscles. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us in How to Eat to Live, our bones are stone, our flesh is vegetation, our blood is water. We come out of the atoms of life, we go right back into the atoms of life. We transform. So we want to be mindful of these things. The messenger said, if you must eat rice, I want to say that again. If you must eat rice, please brown it thoroughly in your oven or on top of your stove with a little butter or oil to keep it from sticking. Keep stirring it vigorously. Remember, eat only one meal once every 24 hours. What is the best time for us to eat? The best time for us to eat, according to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. 4 and 6. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, and I like to quote him, so pardon me when I be turning so much, because I like to give you the direct, original, raw teachings of Messenger Elijah Muhammad. He says in How to Live, book number 2, in the chapter titled Cooked Food is Better, he says, if we eat one meal once every day at 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever is the best hour for your meal, then wait until that hour comes again before eating again. Now, you're about to eat your one meal. You don't want to eat your one meal at 11 o'clock in the morning. You don't want to eat your one meal a day at 11 o'clock at night before you go to bed. You want to understand that you live on a planet that weighs 6 sextillion tons. You live on a planet that has 57,255,000 square miles of land, 139,685,000 square miles of water, which covers 196,940,000 square miles. You live on a planet that is revolving or rotating on her axis at the rate of 1,037 1/3 miles per hour. And the circumference or the circle of our planet, according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is that of 24,896 miles. He teaches us that our planet has exactly 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 46 seconds in a solar day. We don't use the moon. We use the moon for Ramadan, because when you first see that thin sliver of the moon on the right, that new moon, you know that's the first day of the month. You can look at the moon. When you see a half moon, you know it's like either the 14th, 15th, or 16th day of the month. When you see that full moon, you know it's either 28 or 31 days of the month. You can look at the moon and tell what day it is. We've been doing that for 66 trillion years. There are signs in the heavens over our head if we read them properly. That's not astrology. That's the science of astronomy. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that that moon was made 66 trillion years ago by an original man. That moon is 240,000 miles away from the planet Earth, 2,160 miles in diameter, 6,782 miles in circumference. Since light travels 186,000 miles per second and the moon is only 250,000 miles away, it takes 1 or 1.5 seconds for sunlight to be reflected off the moon to come right back down to the planet Earth. Since our sun is 93 million miles away from the planet Earth, or 150 million kilometers away from the planet Earth, and light travels 186,000 miles per second, it takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds, or exactly 500 seconds, for sunlight to reach you and me. This is the reality and the science that Allah has made manifest to us. He didn't teach us belief. He didn't teach us religious mumble jumble. He gave us a spiritual science. He gave us the reality, something that acts in accord with balance. We call it ma'at. We call it peace, truth, freedom, justice, and equality. Whatever nomenclature or scientific term we may put on it, it basically remains the same. We want to be balanced in all things. We want to deal with freedom, justice, and equality. So we want to eat between 4 and 6 p.m. Why 4 p.m.? Because there's approximately 24 hours to a day or a solar day on this planet. So when you look at it, 8 hours plus 8 hours plus 8 hours equals 24 hours. That's your cycle. 3 sets of 8. 8 represents build or destroy. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us we should not eat at 4 o'clock today and then tomorrow you want to eat at 10 o'clock. We should try to eat the same time each and every day. Why? Because it gives rhythm, the law of rhythm. It gives the ebb and flow. It gives the balance. It allows the body to properly deal with the food and drink that we're taking in. So that first 8-hour period from 12 midnight to 8 a.m., that's the period of elimination. You get up in the morning, you urinate, you defecate, you brush your teeth, you shower, you bathe, you cleanse the body inside and out. You get the toxins and pollutants out in that cycle, in that 8-hour period. Then in the next 8-hour period, 4 p.m., that's the period when you ingest or you eat your one meal, how to live one meal per day, preferably a vegan or vegetarian diet. You see? Then in the last final 8-hour period, you had the period of elimination, the first 8 hours. The next 8 hours is the period of ingestion. The last 8 hours is the time of digestion. And when you eat like that, your energy levels are up. Your weight be balanced. Your health will be maintained. You will be more psychologically and spiritually in tune with yourself and the universe in which you dwell. This all comes from eating the proper foods at the proper times. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that by nature, we're not attracted to death. And he teaches us that in the hereafter, we will not have any physical medications the way we do in this day and time. I would like to read from page number 19 on fasting. He says to us, quote, fasting is a greater cure for our ills, both mental and physical, than all of the drugs of the earth combined into one bottle or 1 billion bottles. Allah, God, in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, has taught me that fasting with the right kind of food is the cure for our ills. He has said to me that there is no cure in drugs and medicine. And this the world is now learning. We can take medicine all of our lives until it kills us. Yet, we are still ailing with the same old diseases. All men and women want to know how they can prolong their lives. Nature teaches us to stay here in this life as long as we can. Nature has never taught anyone that he should leave this life and find another one somewhere else, because we only have one life. And if this life is destroyed, we would have a hard time trying to get more life. It is impossible. So try to keep this life that you have as long as possible. Go when you cannot stay here any longer. Allah taught me that 1 meal a day will keep us here for a long time. We will live over 100 years. By nature, we're designed to live over 1,000 years. By nature, we're immortals. That sounds crazy in 2015. That's not going to sound crazy 25, 50 years or 100 years from now. Master Fard Muhammad explained to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1974 as Al Sayyid Arab, the message explained to us that Allah said in the hereafter, and when we say hereafter, we don't mean that we physically die and a white ghost float out our black bodies and shot off into outer space and flew past the sun, moon, and stars into this mystical day of judgment. No, that's all slavery teaching. The judgment, the real judgment, is to judge the mental. It's you looking within yourself and studying within yourself and analyze within yourself and weighing the good and evil in yourself and struggling to be positive as opposed to negative within yourself. As the Holy Quran puts it in Surah 99, al-zilzal, or the shaking, he or she who does an atom's weight of good will see it, and he or she who does an atom's weight of evil will see it. It's about balance. That's the ancient Kemetic or Egyptian or Nubian or Sudanese teachings. You see, they had the scale of justice. They put the mayat, or they put the feather on there. You know what I mean? And they weighed the heart. They wanted to weigh the person's intentions and their actions and deeds. This is what the Bible and the Quran is simply teaching us about good and evil and heaven and hell. It's just that we're interpreting it in a spooky way. And our translations are our interpretations of spookism, or superstition. But it's all practical. It's all natural. It's all mathematical. The Messenger teaches us that real Islam is nothing but mathematics, and mathematics is nothing but Islam. So when we look at this, we have to understand that by nature, we're not designed to die so that we can live. That's a slave teaching. That's a misinterpretation and misapplication of the Holy Bible or Holy Quran. When you understand the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he teaches us that we make heaven and hell right here on earth by the way we think and the way we live our lives. Our lives would be pure hell if we're addicted to drugs and alcohol and pork and all this processed food from the Chinese places and these fast food restaurants like McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we're eating Dunkin' Donuts and drinking all the coffees. Come on. It's too much sugar, too much caffeine, too much oil, too much white flour, too much death that we're taking into our body. When we go to these spooky churches, these spooky masjids, these spooky temples, these spooky synagogues, we listen to these spooky ministers, these spooky reverends, these spooky imams, these spooky gurus, these spooky teachers, and they filling our brains up with all this nonsense, and they taking us out of the realm of reality. When we get into the position and condition where they got us looking at them as being the power instead of putting the power and activating the latent powers in the people, we're just a slave, whether we realize it or not. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us how to eat to live, mentally as well as physically. In book number 2, he teaches us this here, and I would like to share this with you. He says to us about the reality of God. He says in book number 2, which was written in 1972, he says on page number 153, and I like to quote him, he says, "We are the God of ourselves." Let me read that again. We are the God of ourselves, and we can make a habit of eating once every 7 days. We can train our bodies not to desire to take food until the end of the 7-day period. We are just what we make of ourselves. Think about that. We are the God of ourselves. A lot of people be like, Brother Ali, you always talking about the black man is God, Islam law, and all that stuff like that there. I'm trying to get you to see you. I'm not trying to get you to see a photo. I'm not trying to get you to look up into the sky. I'm not trying to get you to look at me. I'm trying to get you to look at yourself, to look at your reality of yourself, your weak self. I'm saying, I don't care what state you may be in. I don't care if you sipping alcohol, drinking Coronas, smoking weed, smoking crack, snorting dope or coke, eating pork. I don't care if you don't have a GED. I don't care if you was on death row. I don't care if you was homeless. I'm saying if you are a black man or a black woman, you are marked by nature with your righteousness. I'm saying you are the creator of creation. Huh? You and your weak form, you like, that's crazy. That's blasphemous. I know. It's because of the way they taught you or mistaught you. But as time goes on, it's going to start making sense. As time goes on, truth is the daughter of time. As time goes on, it gives birth to the truth. It's going to dawn on you. It's going to crystallize on you. And you're going to realize that all of these organized religions, I'm not just talking about the Sunnis or the Christians or the Catholics or the Buddhists or the Hindu or the Taoists. I'm talking about the Nation of Islam. Because you have many in the Nation of Islam that have left the spiritual instructions of Messenger Elijah Muhammad and repackaged it and grafted it into organized religion. I'm saying it's over 4,000 religions on the planet Earth. I'm saying out of those 4,000 religions on this planet, not one of them is telling the truth. Not one. Every last one of them is teaching you some form of mystery God, unless they are teaching you that you are Allah, that you are the God, that you are Jesus. You are the Jesus. You are the Buddha. You are the master, the king, the angel. That the Holy Quran, the Bible, came out of your thoughts and was recorded in metadata or written as hieroglyphics or graffiti down South Philly and West Philly and North Philly and now Atlanta and Los Angeles and California and Miami. I'm saying the black nation is the God. How did you get amnesia? How did you lose the reality of God? You lost the reality of God because it was hidden from you. Where did they hide the reality of God? They didn't take it to the highest point, to Mount Everest. They didn't take it over Israel to the lowest point. They didn't put it in a cave. They didn't hide it inside of an atom. They didn't put it in some ancient book and bury it under the Kaaba. They hid the reality of God in you by teaching you to believe in other than yourself, by depriving you of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of yourself. And in that deprivation, they was able to strip you of your natural right to freedom, justice, and equality. And this allowed the 10% or the minorities to control the wealth as well as the health of the world. They need you to be sick because it's a lot of money in selling blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications. Surgeons get paid top dollars to operate on you. They do stomach tucks. It's a lot of money made in doing them tummy tucks. It's a lot of money in selling them bull crap books and DVDs of nonsense. So they want you to drink this. They're selling you snake oil. Just like they were selling snake oil in early America in 2015, you got people making all kinds of new snake oils. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad warned us in an article titled Awake. He said, Allah God who came to person Master Fard Muhammad despises witchcraft and voodoo and root doctors. He's not talking about people that's teaching the science of herbs. He's not talking about people who's teaching the science of music, the science of aromatherapy, the people who's teaching you the science of raw foods, the people who's teaching you the science of being a vegan. Those are our brothers and sisters in arms. They may or may not be formally in the Nation of Islam, but if they're black, they're part of the Nation of Islam. They're helping you to help yourself. So I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about these 10%ers, these rich, the slave makers of the poor, who teach the poor lies to believe that the almighty, true and living God is a spook and cannot be seen by the physical eye, who's taken the power out of the people. The United States government is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Why are the people so afraid of that government? Why are the people talking all this nonsense about a new world order? The New World Order ain't coming. The New World Order has been here for 6,000 years. Ever since the devil been on this planet, it has been a New World Order for the black nation. So what we're saying is, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we're coming to make a New World Order where the black man, woman, and child is ruling the New World Order. We don't care what the devil is doing. We're concerned about what is God doing. There is no Master Fard Muhammad coming back. There is no Honorable Elijah Muhammad physically coming back. There is no angels coming from the east. There is no mother plane going to come down to save you. You have to be what the messenger said in the Theology of Time in 1972. He told us you must become a self-savior. Think about that. I didn't say it. The messenger said it. You must become a self-savior. As a minister, I'm your brother. As a minister, I humbly submit to you that if I compare that which I know to that which I do not know, I don't know anything. The only thing that I'm effective with is sharing with you the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Some of the things you may not agree with, some of the things you may not understand, because you have to understand that we are at war, literally, spiritually, economically, politically. Every level you can think of, we are at war. Have no doubt about that. I'm a soldier in this war. I'm willing to give all I have and do all in my power to make sure that our people get the messenger's teachings. If it costs me my life, that's a small price. I'm not worrying about that. I'm not worrying about my personal sufferings. I could do other things in another way to get personal benefits. You see, I can, go down to the masjid and tell them I had a vision and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to me in the light and told me, Alif, I want you to bear witness that there is no God but Allah, Muhammad. I want you to support the Sunnah. And they, in 1 year, what I already know about the Quran and Sunnah, in 1 year, you will see me with a kufi and a beard and a beautiful masjid and a big crowd and a whole bunch of money. I could go to the church and tell them I was a minister of the Nation of Islam and I had a revelation like Paul on the road to Damascus. I saw the light. Jesus saved me. And they'll be crying and happy and clapping. And in 1 year, you'll see me with a straight tie, beautiful church, huge crowd, a whole bunch of money. I'm not doing that nonsense. I'm like, forget that mystery God. I'm not going to sell my soul for a piece of fried chicken and a biscuit with some butter on it. I'm going to say, get behind me, Satan. I'm saying we're here to destroy the devil and his kingdom. We're here to put Master Fard Muhammad on his throne. Why? We want the people to be on their throne. I don't wait here for Master Fard Muhammad to come do for me what I know we have to do for ourselves. I understand that there are FOIs and MGTs running around talking about Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam, and they spooked out their mind. All praise is due to Allah. They talking about a mystery Allah. They're talking about the Sunnah. They're talking about Christianity. They're talking about a grafted form of the life-giving teachings of Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So I'm intentionally, consciously saying Salam Allah. Why? Because that means peace, God. God, peace. I'm making you see you. I'm greeting you the way I treat you. I'm greeting you in the nature of your being. Why? Because there's a war going on. A war for your mind. There's a spiritual war going on. They're trying to trick you. They're trying to get you back into old Islam, or Arik Islam, the Orthodox Islam, that old Islam. The Messenger of Allah in his book, The Supreme Wisdom, volumes 1 and 2 in 1957, he said, I'm coming to you to teach you a new Islam. Al-Jadi Islam is the Arabic word for the new Islam. So as a minister of the messenger's message, I'm here to teach you about Al-Jadi Islam, the new Islam, the Islam that teaches that Master Fard Muhammad is the supreme Allah. Pick up the messenger's last book, Our Savior Has Arrived. Open up the pages number 56, 58, 26, 108. Look at what he said. Don't just believe me. I'm telling you when he said it. I'm telling you where he said it. I can't tell you why he said it. I can only allow you to accept it or reject it. There is no compulsion in this new Islam. I pray and I work and I hope that you accept the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I thank you for your time as I leave you in peace in the Arabic expression until next week's subject on how to eat to live about vegetarian way of living. Assalamu Allah, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Peace gods, peace goddesses. I am Brother Minister Alif at the Supreme Angel Center, once again teaching you how to eat to live as taught by Messenger Elijah Muhammad. Good evening. Thank you.